Pardon me. Okay, well, I guess maybe I better get back down on the ground and discuss the case today of a CIA, 25-year veteran, deep cover agent, Gene Chip Tatum. Hi, Gene.
Hi, Ted. Nice to be with you today.
It's great to have you, Chip. And, you know, you're a great American hero. You're coming forward. You refused to haul drugs in when it related to the United States. You refused to haul drugs, period. You're coming forward like this is a big plus. Of course, you realize they're going to come after you. They're going to try to discredit you. You're a disgruntled ex-employee. They've already tried to do that by arresting you, setting you up on a treason charge?
That's correct. And then following that, setting my wife and I up on a fraud charge, charging us with failing to disclose to the federal government ownership of our assets.
Well, you know, folks, let me tell you something. Don't ever go to work for the CIA or for any government intelligence agency, because if they don't put you in jail, they'll kill you if you can't keep your mouth shut. And that's the MO, isn't it? Modus operandi, Chip?
Neutralization.
Neutralization. And yesterday, by the way, folks, we talked on the second hour. We talked about Henry Wade, the congressman from Chicago, Illinois, who is keeping track of all the black ops for the CIA, drugs, munitions, so forth. We talked about Ollie North, and we furnished documentation about his flight, about Chip's flight plans, and how Ollie North was involved in the drug operation. Chip has more than 100 pages on his flight plan that documents this. We talked about Ollie North having set up 5 camps, producing 500 kilos per week down in Central America. We talked about George Bush visiting one of these camps on April the 12th, 1985. We talked about the money flow of drugs, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, I want you folks to understand, I had a call today from Upper New York here at the house, and he pointed out that he couldn't understand about this 2-hour show. Now, what it is, folks, we're broadcasting via satellite for 2 hours. Some stations pick us up the first hour, other stations pick us up the second hour. On the second hour, we're on shortwave, 12.160 frequency, WWCR, out of Nashville. So, we go for 2 hours on satellite. KKVV in Las Vegas picks us up off the satellite. We'll be back just a few minutes, folks. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. And we're back. My guest today is Chip Tatum, 25-year veteran, CIA deep cover. I was explaining, folks, before the music interrupted us, the break, that if you want to hear the second half of this show, it's a 2-hour show, you're going to have to buy shortwave radio and tune it in to 12.160 WWCR out of Nashville, Tennessee. That's for you folks that only can get the first half. Those of you who are listening around the country off the satellite can get the full 2 hours. And you can obtain a shortwave radio, it will be announced later on this show, from the American Freedom Network. Okay, folks, I want to make another announcement now. Kathy O'Brien and Mark Phillips will be at the San Ramos Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada on May the 5th, 1997 at 7 p.m., $10 at the door. The subject matter is mind control, out of control. And Kathy and Mark, Kathy being a victim of the CIA MK-Ultra mind control program. And we'll talk about that, Chip, in just a few minutes, see what you know about it. And Mark being her friend and associate, they will give you a lecture that you will unbelievably not believe, but after you see the documentation, you will believe. Believe me, this is a must. Do not miss this lecture. 7 p.m., May the 5th, 1997, $10 at the door, mind control, out of control. And at the same time, folks, I have Kathy and Mark's book called Transformation of America that's available for $18 to Ted Gunderson, Post Office Box 18,000-259, Las Vegas, Nevada 89109. Chip, what do you know about MK-Ultra?
Not a lot about MK-Ultra, but on the mind control side, I know we had inherited some of the mind-altering drugs that we could control people with, and we use that on numerous. As a matter of fact, that's the preferred method in a neutralization, is to use the mind-altering drugs to control our targets.
And how would you use these drugs? Feed them to them in their soup?
Well, it can be used in many manners. You can put it in tobacco. You can put it in a soda. You can put it in a punch bowl. It's odorless and tasteless. The results of the drug are a complete control situation. It's nicknamed burundanga, but it actually comes from the nightshade family of a flowering shrub that is pretty well found in Central and South America. Depending on the member of the family that you use, your results will be a little different. We used a particular nightshade bulb for our voodoo drug, as we called it. But a person can be under the control of the voodoo drug, Ted, and you can tell them to go to the bank and withdraw all their funds from the bank, and they'll go do it. The bank teller can't tell that they're under any influence of any drug. They'll return it to you, and the following day when they go to the bank, or 2 days later when they go to the bank to get their money out, they won't remember that they withdrew it all and gave it to you.
Wow.
Complete amnesia is one of the effects of it.
Well, you know, Kathy and Mark, I've talked to them. In fact, I've conducted a formal interview with Kathy. This MK Ultra program uses, for the most part, of course, they kidnap kids, they kidnap people. It's used in the satanic arena. And what they do is they use shock treatment, drugs, and hypnosis. And did you use any combination of these in yours?
We really didn't need it. Once we had a person on a derivative of scopolamine, we didn't need anything else. We could control them for up to 3 weeks, and during that 3 weeks, we could actually alter their personality. So, you know, there was no real requirement for shock, unless for some reason there were some discipline problems or body. You know, the body size required too much of the drug to take effect, but that was rarely the case. You know, we lost a few people from overdoses, but that's about it.
Well, yeah, that's nothing to the CIA.
Sure.
You lose a few people for OD, and that's not a big deal.
Nah.
You know, Chip, what about Hinckley and when he tried to shoot Reagan and some of those? You could actually tell somebody, go shoot somebody, and they'd do it then. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and, you know, if we'll look at the Yitzhak Rabin case, I think that is key. Hinckley recalls doing it. The difference between Hinckley and the man in Israel that shot Yitzhak Rabin is the man in Israel admitted to it initially, and then comes back and said he doesn't recall any of those instances. That's scopolamine.
Uh-huh. Okay, anything else you want to mention about mind control? You were, is this part of your training, by the way? Did they teach you this in your training?
Not initial training, ongoing advanced training. As products would come out, we would be trained on the product, maximum utilization of the product, dosage, and so forth.
Yes. Okay. So you didn't need a pharmacist's degree in order to administer this, though, did you, Chip?
Oh, we had a little bit of immunity there.
Yes, I would say so. Chip, we were talking about Ollie North yesterday, and we ended up the show talking about Colin Powell. And you mentioned that Colin Powell had to personally sign off on all the military planes that you flew, because 1 week you're flying for the CIA on civilian status, and the next week you're in the military. Is that right?
That's right. Someone had to sign the document, and Mr. Powell had been in that position for a while.
We'll be back to Mr. Powell in just a minute. And we're back. My guest today is Chip Tatum. Chip, we were talking about Colin Powell. You said somebody had to sign off. Yesterday you said that he signed off. He was the one that did the signing off.
For a portion of the time, Ted, he held that position. But there were several others who held that position also.
Okay. And why was it necessary? The CIA goes out and kills people and is involved in drugs. Why do they have to sign on and off with military planes? Who cares?
Well, I can't go into I could. But to walk into a military installation and requisition a defender with 16 missiles on board is pretty tough without some military orders from a military person. You have to understand that the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Department of Defense, the FBI, the CIA, they really don't cooperate with one another. There's a lot of jealousy between the agencies, and that's a big problem in intelligence in the United States. Is everyone has their own little intelligence network, and no one wants to share anything.
Oh, so in other words, you'd have to have papers that say that, these are my papers from Washington, D.C., here's all these missiles on this plane or whatever it is, and I'm legitimate, and therefore I can land at this airport, and we can sit down and talk.
Are you there?
Go ahead, Chip, and talk. It looks like Ted disconnected himself.
Right, Ted. We were issued military orders, military ID cards, and as a reserve officer, what happened to me is I was basically reactivated. Being reactivated into the military, we were given, depending on the mission, several different ranks. Our pay grade and our rank. Normally, we flew as Chief Warrant Officer simply because there was no question our pay grade was around between 06 and 08 was our pay grades for the missions. As far as being able to show the orders, yes, the orders were cut out of Washington, and they were normally signed by a 2- or 3-star general holding the position of the deputy commander or deputy person of intelligence attached to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, deputy director.
Chip, we were talking about training yesterday. We went into a little bit on the training aspect of it, but was there anything that we should emphasize in the way of training without compromising your position there?
You know, the training was there, but it wasn't heavy training. There's some things you can train people for, and there's some things you just can't train people for. As an intelligence officer, to be successful, you first of all have to have a certain personality type. You know, you should be an A-type personality. You shouldn't be down the line a recluse. You have to be able to adapt quickly to different situations. I would have to adapt from being a military officer all the way through to being a garbage man, picking up garbage from an installation, or even a janitor in a building collecting data. So, you know, you have to be able to adapt quickly to your role. It's role-playing is all it is.
Yeah, role-playing, but, you know, a lot of that has to do with your natural abilities, right?
That's correct. You know, and natural abilities really it's tough and so time-consuming to train into that role-playing or take acting lessons or anything like that so you can readily adapt into a role. You build those roles through the years. You've used a certain personality, a certain person. I've had over 20 AKAs in my career that I've used. So.
Well, what do you mean 20 AKAs? I mean aliases.
Aliases, that's correct.
Okay, a lot of people don't understand that term. Okay, let me ask you this. What about, did you have training in connection with analyzing handwriting? For example, that's kind of detailed, but would they give you that kind of training?
No, but there are those who would be. We have specialists in the agency and in the intelligence community. Myself, I was a pilot. I was a air commander and a pilot. I was an intelligence officer for years, but in later years, I just flew the guys. We had specialty teams. We had we talked yesterday about our hit squads that we would fly around.
How many guys would be on a hit squad?
Usually an Archer team had 4 men. At least 2 of them were assassins or snipers, and one was usually a recon man who's set up with communications equipment, reconnaissance equipment, and so forth to find the target, and then my side was to get them in and get them out.
Okay, so that you were the 5th man?
I was the 5th man.
Well, you know, I've heard through my sources that usually there's 5 men to an assassination squad. That's right. That's the normal number?
Yep.
And I heard about one that, because of information that I developed, that was disbanded, and I think they all went into retirement. But that's beside the point. You mentioned yesterday also about how we assassinated the cousin of it's time to go. Take a quick break, folks. We'll be right back. Ted Gunderson, Intelligence Report. And we're back. My guest today is Chip Tatum. Chip, a 25-year veteran with the CIA, deep cover. And, folks, we've had Chip. This is the 3rd show we've had Chip on. It's 2 hours. That's 6 hours after today. And we have 3 more shows, a total of 12 hours. And if you want to purchase these tapes, and I highly recommend you purchase tapes, this will be 12 hours of an interview with Chip Tatum for $49.95. And you can call 1-800-205-6245 to obtain a copy of the audio tape of this show, which is going to include a total of 6 shows, 2 hours each. So don't miss out on this. Get that tape and make copies. Get it to your friends. Get it to your neighbors. Get it to that fellow next door who has been arguing with you all this time about the New World Order and how wonderful our government is. Let him hear what Chip Tatum has to say. I had an argument with somebody not too long ago. It was on the telephone about